All right, so I just want to welcome you, Aja, to WLRN. I'm coming at you from WLRN Home Studios in Madison, Wisconsin. Emphasis on mad. It's been a crazy trip for me here in this city, and I know you're down in Oklahoma. Welcome, Aja. Thank you for doing this interview with me today.
Thank you for having me, Thistle. I'm so happy to speak with you, and I hope your listeners are able to gain something from this.
Absolutely. You've been on the women's scene now for at least, I mean, I've been seeing you around for at least a year, probably longer. Can you just introduce yourself to our listeners? Tell us where you're from, where you grew up, and how you became a radical feminist.
Sure. Well, my name is A'Ja Lyons. I am a writer. I am a historian. I'm a performer. I'm currently a PhD student. I'm not sure whether or not I should say where, but I mean, if you Google me, you could find out. I'm a PhD student at Oklahoma State University, and my primary genre is creative nonfiction, autoethnography. I really love to blend the personal with the historical, environmental, broader social context. So hopefully you'll see some of my writings around soon as well. I've just been so busy. But I was born and raised in Houston, Texas. And I'm not sure many people think of this, but Texas, the major cities, Houston, Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, major feminists there doing wonderful, beautiful work. Often for the poor, often for reproductive rights, which have been under attack in Texas for, oh, I don't know how long, but they've been fighting the good fight and working on things. But Central Iowa is where I call home. So I too am a Midwestern gal. And I still have a house in Iowa, and I loved Iowa. I loved being a land steward for a nature reserve there. I'm an aggressive environmentalist. Feminism absolutely has to include ecofeminism, Mother Earth, the land which we live on, that which
Yes,
sustains us
a
and nurtures
woman.
us.
Awesome. Totally. Love that.
There is no feminism without environmentalism. I should put that on a shirt.
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
but I'd say that I came to being a radical feminist because I'm a single mother. I am the daughter of a single mother who was the daughter of a single mother who was the daughter of a single mother. And I really saw how much women work in and out of the home for communities, for society, in caretaking, both paid and unpaid labor. And it really was astounding to me how undervalued that labor is. And I saw there's a saying or a meme or something or other that if becoming wealthy was actually about working hard, you know, how many people would be millionaires at this point? Agricultural laborers, construction workers, but also caregivers, teachers. I mean,
Oh my gosh, I absolutely. So your women's labor is undervalued. You're interested in that, and that was part of what led you to become a radical feminist. What does it mean to be a radical feminist activist to you?
so for me, I'm a radical materialist feminist. So our material objective reality of being female is at the root of our oppression. And to address those specific aspects of our sex-based oppression, whether it be through actions, whether it be through writing, whether it be through conversations, whether it be for lobbying, whichever arena one can bring their talents to, their gifts, their time. That's what the work is and means for me. I started out in reproductive rights as an activist in Houston. I used to volunteer for Planned Parenthood. I have not been affiliated with Planned Parenthood for years because they've taken quite a turn. But before, I used to do clinic defense for Planned Parenthood as well as Houston Women's Clinic. Um, and at the time, they were doing
Fantastic. Thank you for that. That is definitely Frontlines activist work.
You learn so much being on the front line. And as I got older and as I became an academic, as a scholar, I took to taking my talents elsewhere. And so I've written a poem which I hope to get published in a literary journal that is a bit more upscale and professional, but still is open to all sides. I wrote a poem about Charlotte Reed and Patricia Wright and their son Benny Wright, who were murdered by Dana Rivers, who is in a women's prison, even though he is a man.
Hmm.
And I I was so honored to receive a standing ovation from sisters at the WDI conference. But I want to get the work in print, and hopefully more will be able to see it.
Yeah,
Thinking
yes, because there was a media blackout on that case. And all the media was referring to him as a she. They were using she pronouns. And so it established like this precedent. I don't know if the police used she pronouns in their files, but the media certainly did. And so it established this precedent of skewing journalism, and I, thank you for writing a poem about that. It's so important to get the word out about what this man did and his connection to American feminist, lesbian feminist culture too. With Michigan Women's Music Festival, how he attended that as a protester, going to Camp Trans before he murdered this lesbian couple. I mean, thank you for writing that poem. I really hope it gets published. Did you want to recite some of it here now? Or I know one of my questions was, what is some of the work you're most proud of in your oeuvre?
that definitely is some of the work I'm most proud of. My work really does span, wide breadth. I'm a multi-genre writer, so I write, poetry, fiction, nonfiction essays. My dissertation will be a memoir. I write about the oppression of women and children, child sexual abuse. And I'm thinking into getting into some of the more international aspects of, migration and international politics. But my work primarily centers women and children, particularly as I am a woman and I am a mother. And I do think children really are the most oppressed in our society, particularly those in poverty. But I would be happy to recite some of my poem. I might just recite the whole thing. Would that be okay?
Absolutely.
So the name of this poem is We Dance and Sing for Silenced Aunties. Did Mrs. Patricia and Charlotte argue sugar versus salt on grits? How did y'all take your hot plates? Greens or green beans? Mac and cheese or yams? 56 and 57 years old, the first generation to dance and sing to I Will Survive. We are family. How many white lesbians tried to call you a stud, brother? How many white gay men rolled their necks and called you sis, girl? How many children called you auntie? How many more never will? Shame the baby gay girls will never know. These Oakland lesbian aunties. Wish we could. Many of us who only know you by story, spirit, and pain. We still speak your names. Gray hairs grew, yet life lost before senior citizen specials. Gone before your sons made you grandmas. Notions of camaraderie with a fellow veteran. Kinship in the bikers club. You couldn't know of the follow by false friend. Teachers believe there's always more to learn. You couldn't know of an incoming invasion. Of space and skin by foe faking ken. Of a fight to abolish sister space. The land you'd walked. Gorilla grip separating hands held. Chest beating in dominance over woman walking away. Did you refuse to play the game? Did you hold the line and say no to a crossing of the threshold? It's a line we sisters still fight for. Our bars, apps, and even our bedrooms. You couldn't know you'd been cast in a script, stalked from the veterans group to the motorcycle club, and penalized for your impromptu in leaving. How could you know a menace would come knocking an hour drive from San Jose to Oakland? Not too comfortable in pockets packed with ammo and knives. November 11th, 2016, Oakland, California. The gunshots alerted neighbors. The police came and found you. First, they saw your murderer, angry and obsessed with flesh out of gnarly clawed reach. Benny Wright, 19, took his last breaths in the street, outside of his home, still in his PJs, shot in the torso. Life stolen 5 months after graduating high school. Patricia Wright, retired teacher, shot in the back and left breast, stabbed in the neck and shoulder, found dead on her bedroom floor. Charlotte Reed, veteran, shot twice, 28 stab wounds to the head, face, and neck, 12 stab wounds to the chest and torso, found dead in bed. Upon denial of entry, deranged creature destroyed the lagoon. Only the family dogs left unharmed. Blood on the walls, blood in the street, blood on the lawn, blood on bed sheets. Did the blood leave your bodies in floods? Or did mothers fight to stay for their son? Your murderer doused your garage in gas and lit a flame, an attempt to hide lies and shame. No marches or petitions or questions or cries of not another ever again. When lesbians don't survive, even by hands of family. The justice quieter than the terror. 150 years without parole for the most depraved crime that I've, Judge Scott Patton, handled in the criminal justice field in 33 years. Writing that murderer's name would tarnish pen and page. So this baby sister writes of your surviving son, Kari, who forgave what many of us cannot. This little sister writes of your brothers. Richard called you the rubber band that held the family together. Light from your Oakland community lit the way for kinfolk around the world to cradle your family as you dance and sing at the eternal disco.
Wow. No wonder you got a standing ovation.
Thank you, Thistle.
I'm speechless. I mean, you're visibilizing lesbians who were murdered, and you're bringing something that's so dark and painful to light at the very end of the poem, and bringing the victims to light where they are remembered dancing, which is so appropriate, I think, when you think about lesbian culture. Uh, it is about music and dancing and the arts, highly about that throughout the years, with Michigan Women's Music Festival. I'm reading Susan Hawthorne's book. She's a founding member of Spinifex Press. Her book called Lesbian right now, and I'm going to be doing an interview with her. And your poem really reminded me of one of her essays in that book, because it's a compilation of essays that she wrote over a period of time, and just about the disappearing of lesbians and lesbian struggle, and how no other group is disappeared and really denigrated and misunderstood and left literally for dead, without recognition, than lesbians. And so, I think your poem really helps heal that.
Thank you so much. It means a lot. I know that in our culture and society, unfortunately, anything remotely critical of trans-identified persons, no matter regardless of how truthful they are, are deemed bigoted. And so I'm submitting it to the new criterion, which is, more centrist or seen as slightly right of center. And it's unfortunate that, I know that most women's magazines that are of the same caliber, any literary magazine or literary journal, probably wouldn't publish it. Um, I had submitted it to a poetry workshop I took this summer, and unfortunately, my peers deemed it bigoted, transphobic, propaganda. And I'm thinking, how is it propaganda when it happened? And as I said in the poem, it really wasn't spoken of, even in the gay community.
You
Even in the, I
don't
don't
even,
think
in the
Oakland,
poem, I guess I'd have to hear it again, but you don't even talk about him being trans, really, do you?
it's very slight and not explicitly, but it is implied, or the language of, fake friendship, or I mentioned the land, where Mitch Fest was. Um,
That this is just so crazy. It's like, didn't they during this trial, didn't the judge require that call him she or something like that?
Unfortunately, I don't know,
I
but
don't
I
know
will
the
say
answer
that
to that.
news articles and such did. I mean, some of them stated that, he was trans identified, and they still, use she pronoun, her pronouns, and addressed him by, I guess, the name he changed it to, Dana Rivers. I can't remember what his real name
David
was. Or
was his real name, and I don't remember his last name, but oh my gosh. Yeah, let's switch gears here because
yes,
that is some just part of why this stuff I think doesn't come to light is because it's so heavy,
it is.
and that's why I like your poem of them being in the light at the end of the focus on the victims and them being humans and dancing and being a part of this joyful aspect of lesbian culture that, I mean, why do they hate us, Aja? I mean, we're dancing and singing in the woods. Like, what? Why is that seen as bigotry? It's a rhetorical question. I'm gonna shift here, and I know we can segue because you read that poem at the WDI USA convention that recently took place in September 2024 here in the United States, in Atlanta. It was the third one. It was called Amplifying the Feminist Movement, or was it the Women's Movement? Amplifying Our Movement. And you loved it and you posted a bunch of pictures, and I just want to hear what were some of the highlights for you, and tell us a little bit. What's your review of the 2024 WDI USA convention?
Well, I think I should at some point do a proper write-up. All the time might get away from me, but it was my first time attending a WDI conference, and it was everything I could have imagined. There were so many women that, we do see in videos and on websites and posting on social media and really active in the movement. Kara Dansky, Lauren Levy, Jessica Gonzalez, and even some women that, are not in the streets, but they are doing interviews. They are active on social media. They're getting the word out in their own ways. To Exa Lanzik, I believe her government's name is Sierra, who posted videos about Jazz Jennings and the different trans-identified individuals. She was there, and I really appreciate her work because Jazz Jennings really was used as a tool to promote this harmful ideology and push it on children and the solution for families with gender distressed children and its mantras. And she gives such a close analysis, and I appreciate her work for that, particularly as someone who I believe she's a speech therapist. She also does a lot of physiological body work and such. And her videos with sharing and giving information about other trans identified, particularly females, and the health issues. So I appreciate her work. She was there. And also Mary Kate Delvey, who takes a more lighthearted, comical, laid back approach with her videos, Listen to Trans People. And she in person is actually very shy and quiet and small. And it's so funny because in her videos, she'll take out her menstrual cup and then paint, you will never be a woman with her blood on canvas. Love it, love her. But also other women doing the work. North Carolina State Senator Val Applewhite was there, who was so bold and brave to be the sole Democrat senator to, not to vote in support of a bill keeping sports in North Carolina, I believe this was children's athletics, sex segregated.
Wow. And did she speak at the convention?
She did. She was on a panel, I believe the first panel that they had, about building bridges.
Okay. And has she faced retribution for being the only Democrat who voted that way?
Sadly, yes, she received some very nasty messages. She said, there was a bit of talking to be had about that. But she has chosen to stand strong in her convictions. And she gave a very simple answer that, she was a mother of two sons who are athletes. So she's well aware of the sexual dimorphism, particularly in sports. And it
Mhm.
really is that simple. And it's not about hating anyone or not wanting anyone to be included. It's simply, boys play with boys and girls play with girls, and that's all it is.
Cool. That's cool. Amy Souza. We would be remiss if we didn't mention her. She got so much praise afterwards on social media for showing up. Amy, as you know, has suffered from breast cancer most recently, and she's still speaking out and doing her research, and she's so articulate. What was it like going to her presentation?
She is so lovely, so brilliant, so fun. I love that she just brings light and joy and humor to all that she does. But she really spoke some beautiful truth. So she really shared many of the psychological and historical aspects of um, not just gender, but the way women in particular have been subject to social contagions, but also deemed irrational and insane and maniacal for being non-compliant, or how so many aspects of one's personality or behavior are overly pathologized. And
Yeah,
I
and
really,
that we play those tapes. I didn't see the presentation, but I can add to that that those tapes get played in our heads, and so then we don't even need an external oppressor anymore. It's just in our heads, you know? So, fantastic. She does fantastic work, and she's an inspiration, being a breast cancer survivor, and continuing to plod along. Yeah, these women are such strong troopers, the ones that keep going in the feminist movement. What was the purpose of the convention, and do you feel that it achieved its purpose?
I really felt that the purpose was for women to gather, and I can't remember if it was Elizabeth, the president of WDI, or if it was Kara Dansky, sort of president emeritus, stated, we are here together and we all now know we're not crazy. I think that was the primary purpose, because I can only speak for myself, but I know I have been gaslit to the roof that I'm crazy, I'm a bigot, trans women are women, people are who or what they say they are, and I'm the one who's just being this crazy right-wing conservative. I'm conservative
Sure.
in the sense that I know how human
Okay,
beings,
so that sisterhood and that solidarity and finding one another. But the name of the conference was Amplifying the Women's Movement. But were
yes,
you just preaching to the choir? Okay, so
that,
I mean, this is I'm just curious. What are the next steps after a convention like that? Like, how do we
mhm,
amplify the women's movement? How do we get our numbers stronger? I also heard there were fewer numbers this year than there had been the year before. Was that because it was in Atlanta? What is it? Like, how do we achieve our goals, set our
yes.
goals and really achieve them?
Right. Well, again, I'm not that deep into WDI. I can say that the I think, we are in a recession, and I was fortunate enough to be sponsored to go. I do know some women stayed at the hotel, some women did not. The hotel was expensive. The ticket for the conference is expensive. Atlanta is a large metropolitan city. And I don't know if it's larger than San Francisco. I don't think it's larger than Washington, D.C., at least population wise, but pretty intimidating to navigating the 8 lanes of, traffic one way. That I do not know, but I definitely see money can always be a deterrent. It's why I've never gone to WDI before. One of the reasons. I'm also busy. There are people who have families, children, sorry, women. The people who go to these conferences are women, so only women. That I do not know. I can say, though, the purpose in regards to amplifying women's voices moving forward, there was lots of talk about that. There was lots of strategy. There were lesbian groups. There are more WDI groups and caucuses opening up. There's spaces now just for, lesbians coming out later in life. But the first panel, Building Bridges, how to converse and engage with people who are not on the same wavelength, are not quite on the journey to radical feminism, or simply just aren't cognizant of what all is going on. Much of the Western world is really unaware of how deep this problem goes. It is simply a matter of, oh, we need to be inclusive. Let's make sure everyone feels welcome and included. Well, they don't know that there are, women and girls missing out on money because they're letting men in. It's not just about, oh, we should let the men run. It's, well, people are losing money.
Well,
Also,
and not to mention that inclusivity is a code word in this Orwellian world we live in for exclusion of girls and women, you know?
exactly.
Women in sports, for example, women are being excluded from scholarship opportunities because men are taking the scholarships, all in the name of inclusion.
Right. And I think a lot of women are also under the idea that, well, they don't win every race. Well, it doesn't matter. Even if they compete, they took a spot away from a woman or girl who could have raced and maybe could have won.
Right. And so this whole inclusion of men into the category of women is a guise for men colonizing our everything. Everything.
It is. And there were many speakers there, and I think simply sharing of the experiences gives more not only tools but content for those women who do speak out to others. So, Amy Souza's talk with the psychological aspects. There was also a woman who is a professor at Kutztown University, and I believe she's tenured, so I can go ahead and speak of her and her name and everything. And Melissa Nerzinski, um, who is a faculty member, and what she's seen with her students writing and how she engages with her students, and these aspects that we should look for in other areas, and what it all means for female erasure or female social conditioning. I mean, the way that girls are seeing themselves even as they're entering college and engaging in scholarship is influenced by gender ideology. And so that level of self-analysis, but also engagement with others is present. And the detransitioner panel was the most powerful. I loved all the panels I went to, all the discussions. There was a wonderful panel on intergenerational aspects of movement. There was a panel with, there was a woman who was a boomer, Gen Z, Gen X, older millennial, younger millennial, and then wait, I said Gen Z. Yeah, Gen Z. That's the next one. A millennial, so I have to keep track. Yes, Gen Z. And not only, the struggles that maybe other generations might not be aware of, but what they want the others to know, particularly the ones that came before them and the ones that come after them. And so teaching us how to engage with each other in and out of the movement is another aspect, but also tools for how to engage and communicate with others. And if nothing else, meet someone halfway. I'm friends with women who are conservative Christians. We have nothing in common other than we want to figure out how we can keep children safe and how we can respect everyone. But if children are unsafe, we need to come together and figure out how to keep children safe. Or, we might have different ideas of what reproductive rights looks like, but we can still do work together on women's health. And that can lead to conversations and maybe seeing each other's perspectives.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
fighting for, men to not be in a woman's religious space, I think again, maybe some conservative women, we could, work on that and building bridges, as I said.
Yeah. Building bridges and amplifying women's movement, women's voices. And it sounds like, with the women that were there, um, that there was a lot of camaraderie and
Yes.
socializing and good feeling and a skill share, learning things that will help you as you go along in your feminist activism to amplify women's voices. So, yeah, I think getting together in person is a great idea. And I just hope that building bridges attitude, and that openness continues uh, in our organizing efforts here in the USA, because we've struggled, I think, as American women trying to create a unified front, so and that brings me to the opportunity that's arisen, which is why I'm wearing this Chicago um, feminist flag today on my shirt, is here in the USA and across the world, women are organizing to show solidarity out in the streets, which, as you know, is a very brave thing to do. Now, let's talk about the TRAs in Atlanta. I heard there were no TRAs that showed up, but the year before in San Fran, they mobbed the place and even punched the guy in the front lobby, the hotel worker in the front lobby. Um, it's TRA activity, I think, is somewhat unpredictable. What had they heard on the ground? Were they expecting any? And then it was a surprise they didn't show up, or what can you tell me about that?
To my knowledge, they weren't, WDI did not expect TRAs. There was security just in case. And women had to wear, lanyards, so that they were a conference, so everyone could know who was a conference attendee. But, it was in the South, and not that there aren't trans rights activists in the South, but they tend to not be as extreme.
Okay,
Um,
good
and
to
and
know.
the South has a bunch of red states, and there's going to be more people who agree, like, hey, do what you want to do, but you get me involved, that's a different story.
Hmm.
That's a lot of the attitude in the South. Mind your business. Forcing someone into your business is just rude and ridiculous, and you might get some energy that you don't want. People like their guns in the South. And so
Okay, so
you
that's a big cultural difference.
massive. I was told that a lot of the, was it cameramen or hotel personnel actually agreed with WDI and what they were doing in the conference.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, well then, I mean that's a good answer. I don't know. I'm thinking about security too, and I don't think I want to talk too much about what's going on November 1st. Just to say, though, that it's a chance for American women to organize wherever you are, to amplify women's voices. And um, let's see, let me get to my questions here, um, and see if we've gotten to most of them. I think we have. Um, what are some radical feminist projects that you're working on right now?
Let's see. I'm a busy PhD student, so I do what I can when I can. But I am considering seeing if I can gather some Oklahoma turfs to, um, or radical feminists rather, to protest at the German consulate in Oklahoma City.
I'm really glad that that's one of your next radical feminist projects. I think that's excelente. Estoy súper emocionada por eso. I'm very excited for that. And is there anything else you'd like to say to our largely radical feminist and lesbian listeners that are largely American women?
I would say that, gather with other women. If you can, go to certain events, but just know that, the classic book, The Womanly Art of Breastfeeding, just came out with a new edition and they removed the word womanly. Who's doing all this breastfeeding?
Oh gosh. Okay, yeah.
Just gather with women, talk to women, talk about what's going on in the world. And, you don't need to beat women over the head with it, but just ask questions, I mean, just what do you think it means that this book that has been so important to so many women for so many years, they removed the word woman? I mean, is it really inclusive? Is it really no big deal?
Or is it
Or
excluding women from even like the category of being human? That's what it feels like. I feel like this movement, this trans movement, is so dehumanizing of everyone, but like especially of women who question the ideology. It's like they literally are calling us, bigots that should die in a fire and stuff like that. And it's like, what the heck? Like, we're human beings that maybe we have a different opinion from you, but like, we're not these horrible monsters. And
well, apparently we are if we're not serving men, which is really what it comes down to. Who is serving men, men's wants, men's desires? Lesbians aren't doing that. Radical feminists aren't doing that. And that's why they want us to die.
well said. And we keep on keeping on. I mean, Michigan never really died. The year after the festival was canceled in 2015, where women were right there back on the land, you know.
That's beautiful.
um,
Michigan family reunion, big
yeah,
mouth girl.
yeah, cool. Well, I'm sure I will see you at a women's gathering at some point in person, Aja. Thank you so much for coming on WLRN's airwaves today.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for all you do, Thistle.
All right. You are welcome. Peace out, sister.
Thanks for tuning in to another WLRN interview. To learn more about A'Ja, visit a'jalyons.com. To see the entire catalog of WLRN's totally excellent radical feminist work, you can visit WLRNmedia.com. We are your volunteer-powered feminist community media center. To donate to our efforts, please consider clicking on the donate button when you visit our website. I'm Ann Castile, WLRN's sound engineer and producer in training. Signing off for now. Stay strong, sisters.